My name is Mark. This is Zen Talk, and we're talking about nihilism. All right. No soul. Nihilism is to say that there is only phenomena, that which you can see around you. That what the five senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, can know, and that there is nothing more, and that phenomena is all that there is. The nihilists say there is no spiritual essence, no soul, no nirvana, no escape from phenomena. So just learn to like it. And here's a picture of this, and I guess an angel in the cage. And oftentimes an angel is a artful representation of your soul. And here's like a demon. Now it looks like maybe he's hungry. I don't know. So nihilism is basically to say that, again, a phenomena, sight, sound, taste, and touch, and there's nothing more. In other words, there's no spiritual self. There's nothing more than that, and that there's no spiritual essence. There's no ghost. There's no soul. And when you say there's no soul, then you're saying there's no nirvana and there's no escape. Because if there is no soul, then there's nothing to be liberated from something. And so nihilism is to say that you are here, so just like it. Just learn to live with it. Just learn to love it. All right, nihilism in the Zen centers. Go turn off my cam. Unfortunately, nihilism is rampant in most Western Zen centers, and it's become pretty rampant also in Japan and China as well. And there are many reasons why. The teachers or the organization and the students are ignorant of the Buddha's original teachings, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Spiritually wounded on the topic of the soul from prior religions, Christianity, Judaism, or whatever they came from. Afflicted by Theravadan materialism. And the Theravadins would basically say that phenomena is all that there is, so just learn to love it. They don't believe they have a soul, a spiritual essence, or they just never touched it. Believe Zen is a Japanese culture, a Japanese Chinese cultural religion, and not a path of salvation. This is a big one here. Evil people, demons, who enjoy inflicting spiritual wounds, suffering on others, are among them. And there are evil people in the Zen centers, just as there are evil people in the churches, or in the Christian churches. Wrong, evil teachings. There are those Zen centers that teach a materialistic practice. So all of these in one or together or in parts or all of them right down the line can be reasons why you have nihilism in the Zen centers. And you will often hear it when the whole thing of the soul is brought up, and then the denial that the soul exists. And that's your biggest tip-off that you're dealing with nihilism. And when coming down to here, the belief that Zen is a Japanese Chinese cultural religion, there's a lot of that too. You'll see this play out far more and important than even the spiritual salvation aspect of why you're there. And this is a big question of, why am I doing these Japanese cultural religious things when it has nothing to do with the path of salvation? So something that you can bring up on your own or investigate. Evil people, there's a lot of demons in the Zen center, and they show up because they know it's shooting fish in a barrel. They know what it is. They know that they can catch. They know that they can do some damage there, and so they do. All right, let's move on. Has a dog Buddha nature or not? Go back to my camera here. There we are. Many Zen teachers will say that the anatman means no soul. This is a misunderstanding that is often cited to support the Zen teacher's already predisposition towards nihilism. the true meaning of anatman, which is an, and then there's a hyphen, and then anatman, which is referring to what is not the soul, not that there is no soul. And this word here, a lot of scholars go back and forth and greatly debate, but generally it's understood to be what is not the soul, and it does not mean no soul. So if there truly was no soul, then the Buddha's teachings would have directly said that. However, there is no such teachings in the Buddhist doctrine. Turn off my camera here. What we do find is the Buddha teaching what the soul is not, anatman. So again, what we do find is that the Buddha teaching what the soul is not, anatman. It's not a cup of tea, it's not the wind, it's not that tree over there and such. It's not that rock in front of you, it's not the sandals that you are wearing. So basically anatman is pointing to the saying that the phenomena world around you is not the soul. Okay, so that is the true meaning again. And again, if the Buddha was to actually say, hey, there's no soul, then the Buddha would have directly said that in the Four Noble Truths or the Eightfold Path. He would have said, excuse me, there's no soul, let's never talk about this again. But there is no doctrine anywhere in the Buddhist canons that teach that there's no soul. There's just no such teaching, never was. Finally, if there was no soul, then there would be nothing to liberate, and thus there's no way out of suffering. Therefore, those who claim that there is no soul deny the Buddhist teachings and defeat the point of Zen practice. Such a person cannot be said to be a teacher of Buddhism or a Zen practitioner. This is another big one here. When you say there's no soul, when someone says Buddhism says there's no soul, well, then they're denying Buddha. Then you can say, well, so you're denying the Buddha's teachings, and they will say, no, I'm not. Well, then it's because they don't understand the Buddha's teachings, and not understanding the Buddha's teachings can be the same thing as denying the Buddha's teachings. And thus they are saying there's no way out of suffering, which is not what the Buddha taught. The Buddha teaches there's a way out of suffering, and that's through the Eightfold Path. Therefore, those who claim there's no soul deny the Buddha's teachings and defeat a point of Zen. So if you truly believe there's no soul, and the people around you saying there's no soul, then what's the point of even going to the Zen center? What's the point of Zen practice? What's the point of even listening to the Buddha's teachings? What's the point? And like I said, those people that say these things, really, even if they're a teacher with a shaved head, where they wear robes and they're wearing religious ornaments, they got I have those lineage from so and so. I got Wudi Ping's lineage. I got Bao Wang Wang's holy blessings to teach this. And if they say these things, they are not a teacher of Buddhism, nor are they a Zen practitioner. And you could directly tell them that. They may get mad at you and throw things at you and hit you, because I have been hit. People have thrown things at me. I've had a famous teacher throw a whole bookcase at me. I've been punched in the head. It has happened. These people who spend their whole life obtaining holy vestiges and certificates and robes and pins and positions, when they come to face with the true teachings of the Buddha, they become very angry. That's what I found. Theravada materialism. The Theravadins, those yellow robe-wearing monks from Burma and that area, is a very old school where their metaphysics existed well before that of the Siddhartha Gautama's enlightenment of the nature of suffering, and his sermons, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. The Theravadins essentially believe that all that you see is all that there is, materialism. Their doctrine of no self, anatta, is often misunderstood, even by their own monks. even by their own monks and teachers, to mean no soul. However, the true meaning is not fixed, not permanent, or unchanging soul. And it also, anatman means your soul is not external. It's not a rock, it's not a tree, it's not the dog, it's not, it's not the wind, it's not the stars, it's not the moon, it's not the air, it's not the ground. And it's it's not fixed, like, you're not the baby that you were born, you're not the little person, you're not the 10-year-old. And who you are now is going to change to be an older person. So it's not permanent or fixed. It's or an unchanging soul. This misunderstanding unfortunately propagates with those who already inherently disbelieve the teachings of the Buddha and is spiritual liberation ontology. That should be the spiritual liberation ontology. This has led to many spurious teachings of Buddhism that even find its way into the Zen centers. And the too many spurious teachings, which is false teachings, it's like stray cats. And you'll often hear the Zen, there's a lot of Zen commentary about people letting stray cats into the Zendo, which means you're letting false teachings, wrong-headed teachings of Buddhism find its way into your mind, into your heart, into your essence. And you have to really be vigilant to not let that happen. When wrong teachings, spurious teachings, delude, they cloud, they confuse, they end up creating more harm than good. And that's why, when you properly understand the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, a lot of these spurious teachings are seen for what they are. And a lot of these people that propagate these spurious teachings and who misunderstand, who insist that there's no soul, or they insist, they actually go and deny the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path as to truly what it means. You can see them for who they are. Okay. So you bring your own doubts to the table, or a lot of people like to say you bring to the Zen, you bring with you everything into the Zendo, which is absolutely true. Many seekers of Buddha's liberation of ontology and the Path of Zen bring great doubts with them. Many spend years, decades struggling with doubts. What exactly are these doubts? Well, they doubt that they doubt that there's a soul. People will say, "Well, show me the soul." Well, because they expect it to be like a rock, a bird, the air, wind. They want to be able to hold it, and that is not. We're talking about a spiritual soul, not a physical soul. They doubt that the Buddhist sermons are true. And they doubt that they can find liberation, true bliss, and happiness. They doubt that they are even worthy enough for the teachings. They doubt that they can actually commit themselves to the Eightfold Path. Let's go back up here to that worthy enough for the teachings. I've met a lot of people at the Zen centers who have lived very harsh lives, and they had to do things to survive that they don't want to talk about. Some people were prostitutes. They dealt drugs. They've done things in their life that they're not happy about, that they don't want to talk about, that they just want to hide. So they don't think they're worthy enough to be saved. They got it in their mind that, I have to be a choir boy and never drink alcohol and have never committed a sin in order to be saved. And that is wrong-headedness. That is not true at all. And these are, all these things here create the great doubt. And these doubts are massive mountains between you and salvation. And they create an incredible amount of suffering when these doubts are held. And what's even worse is when you doubt your doubt, or you deny your doubt. So when these doubts solidify in a person, and which means become like permanent or very, very hard, we see this played out as vengeful nihilism, where they use any means to defeat the teachings of the Buddhas and subvert the path of Zen to just that of a cultural play acting and nonsense. One can think of anything more terrifying than when such a person becomes a Zen teacher or an officiant of Buddhism. So, again, with the doubt solidified in a person, and they've decided that pretty much everything the Buddha taught is junk. They decided that it's not going to work. We see this played out as vengeful nihilism. In other words, they go out of their way to pound into other people their own doubts, where they use any means to defeat the teachings of the Buddha. And they'll be clever, and they'll be sly, and they will come up with 1,000 ways of why the Buddha was wrong without saying it directly. But when you push them, and you get them to admit that what they're saying is higher or equal to the Buddha, that's when they'll start to throw the bookcase at you. They'll hit you. They will kick you in the head. I got some scars on me to show if you want about that. And they will subvert the path of Zen to just a cultural play acting and nonsense. And you'll see this a lot in the Zen centers, where the whole thing tends to be play acting some ancient Japanese culture or temple play that has nothing to do with Zen or Buddhism. And again, when I say, can you think of anything more terrifying when such a person becomes the Zen teacher? And sometimes that person becomes the Zen teacher just because it's their best way to fulfill their vengeful nihilism. Or they become an officiant of Buddhism just because they've been around long enough, or because the person that was the teacher before them died and the congregation had no idea who to turn to, so this person said, well, turn to me. It happens more than you think. All right, more than you think. Vigilance. Doubts can easily solidify themselves, creating more spiritual wounds that seem to take on a life of their own, where you may see in yourself or in others where the doubts totally consume one's mind, speech, actions, and intentions. A being like that is also known as a demon, one who was in a hell prison of their own creation, for they not only inflict spiritual wounds on themselves, but they also inflict it on others to justify their own suffering, such as a pitiful creature. And only with great care and skill can such a creature be returned to the Buddha's true path. There are then times when such creatures gain control of the schools of Buddha, the Zen centers, and create a hellish environment for all those who haphazardly venture in. Oh, I have heard the horror stories from Buddhist students about such teachers and the terror they create and the deep spiritual wounds created. For I also understand all too well how hard it is to stand up, to be vigilant, to someone who claims authority, if only simply because they wear the robes, have a position in the religious order, and adorn themselves with holy ornaments. And I would say that everything I'm saying here can be true for any religious school or path, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. Doesn't really matter. When a demon enters, a demon enters. Be vigilant. All right, the vicars of Buddha's teachings. When one is soundly rooted in the teachings of the Buddha and the path of Zen, the one easily becomes the vicar, a defender of the doctrine of Buddha. Those whose teachings are spurious, that's false or twisted, can never stand up and defeat the real teachings of Buddha. They will always be defeated. And this is absolutely true. Like I said, I have had bookcases thrown at me. I've been punched in the head. I have been kicked. I have been whipped. all because they were defeated. And that will happen. When you speak the truth of Buddha, the true teachings, they cannot stand up to them, and they will viciously lash out. Doesn't matter if they have a shaved head or robes or religious adornments. It doesn't matter what position they have. If they are against the Buddha's teachings, they will always be defeated. Do not be deceived by those who claim position or authority, wear robes, shave heads, or is holding religious ornaments. All right, and that's the end of my talk on nihilism. Like again to thank you very much for your patience and time in listening to me. I know a lot of what I said can sound harsh, but sometimes you have to take a vigilant stand when you're talking about Buddhism, because there's a lot of junk out there, and there's a lot of demons out there. Maybe we can save them in this life, maybe not. I don't know. All right. Please remember to like and subscribe.